I'm first generation. My parents came from China with like $1,000 in the pocket carry in. And Sam, I see that Sam's on this call as well. And man, my parents, they lived in a two-bedroom apartment with 9 people in the heart of Chinatown in Boston. And my mom tells me the story all the time because one night we had $5,000 of cash out, and we were getting ready to bring that home back home to China to repay some of our relatives for helping them get over here. Well, that night, um, someone climbed through the second floor window and robbed us. And I don't know if you can imagine losing your entire year for selling one night, but that's what happened to my parents. On a $3 an hour salary, that's how much they made the entire year. But my mom tells me this story all the time because she said, "Kent, bad things, horrific things happen to good people, but it's about how you bounce back that matters." And she said the only thing that kept her going was that she had hope. And that hope came from being on a wait list for affordable housing. So that's why 2.5 years ago, I started this podcast called Affordable Housing and Real Estate Investing. And I had a mission to create the largest affordable housing community in the United States. Because every single person I put in one of these homes helping someone like my mom. And I hope for those that are listening, I hope you can join me on this mission just by supporting the podcast, tuning in, and helping you find the right guest. Because I've been on a journey, Gary, on just learning everything possible about affordable housing, from Section 8 single family homes all the way to multifamily ground up development. And I've been very fortunate. I've been coming across some mentors that have really taken me under their arms and spent the time teaching me all about affordable housing and all about development from the ground up.
Here's where I am now. Nowadays, I've been learning how to structure deals for developers. And here's what I mean. Let's use an example. So for those folks that don't understand how developers make money, let's say, so we look at a deal for 40 acres in Florida. The selling price was $6 million. And we thought we could build about 900 apartments on it. If you bought that land on option contract, meaning, hey, you can go to the seller and say, hey, Mr. Seller, I can't close on this deal until I get my entitlements. And entitlements are when you get the stamp of approval from your city or your county. You say, hey, you have our permission to build 900 apartments. No blueprints yet, just a concept. As soon as it's entitled, it's worth at least $20,000 per unit. That means you just took a piece of property from $6 million to $2 million, because 900 units times $20,000 per unit is $18 million. Now, if you're smart, then you also say, hey, Mr. Seller, I can't give you a big EMD because I got to use that money for my due diligence, my third-party reports, environmental studies, stormwater drainage, blah, 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 blah. And if I don't close, Mr. Seller, you can keep all these reports anyways. So now, where are you? Now, after you get your project entitled, why do you want to do that? Because now it's financeable. So now you can go get a 50% LTV loan on an $18 million property, take $9 million out, do 6 and pay off the seller, keep $3 million left to pay off your architecture engineers and to get your construction document blueprints. What do you just do? You just bought an $18 million piece of property for no money in your pocket. Now that's creative finance at its best, in my opinion. But that's what taught me, especially if you have the right relationships with your city council, mayors, whoever has the right decision rights in there. Now you can go approach them and say, hey, do you have any parking lots that you want to build affordable housing on? Because now you can make the city or the county a partner in a joint venture with you as a nonprofit. What does that mean? Well, if you can let the city or the county donate that land to your deal, you no longer have to go take out debt to buy the land and go through the entitlement risk of waiting for the project to get approved, because it could take 1, 2, for some folks in LA, it take 8 years to get a project approved. But now you take the risk off the table, you can have time. And now the city or the county is a partner in the deal. Why would they not approve the deal, especially if it's for affordable housing? That's assuming you're in a city that actually care about affordable housing, okay? Full disclosure. So now, if you're smart, you can just go get your project approved, and now you can go get a HUD loan. And HUD loans will finance up to 30%, lower interest rate, non-recourse, and they can go up to 90% loan to cost with a 1.11 DSCR. So now you have 100% of the capital set to build a 200-unit apartment building that you got the land for free from the city. That's creative finance at its best. And that's how you can make money as a developer. And for all of you that are listening right now, and I hope they're listening on the replay, that's where you bring your intellectual capital to the deal. And that's how you can wedge yourself into the deal because you negotiated that piece of the deal. So that's what I'm suggesting to all of you. For you guys to take into consideration for what you can bring to the table. If you don't have money, you don't have land, you have the brains. Because you just got the same information that I have in my brain that I got from asking guests for the past 2.5 years on my podcast. And that's how you put a deal together for a development deal.
So is that your main focus now, working at scale on development deals?
Correct. I'm working on building relationship with people that have relationships with folks that might know the city or the county that actually wants affordable housing, not using it as a soundbite, but actually wants affordable housing, because I can guide you along on how to put that deal together.
So you operate as a nonprofit?
Correct. We do operate as a nonprofit. That's exactly right.
Which chapter?
Right now, I just got recruited to be, I'm chairman of the board at a nonprofit called Hope Housing Foundation in McKinney.
So it's C3?
501c3 nonprofit. That's exactly
Okay.
right.
Right.
Yeah.
That's what I was kind of asking there. So
Yeah.
do you take donations? Do you actively seek donations from people, or is that?
We take donations, but honestly, at the end of the day, I prefer to just help people think about how do you make a deal pencil. And if donations come from that, great. I'm not actively out there soliciting and asking for donations for Hope Housing Foundation.
So are you primarily developing or targeting projects for Section 8, or are you going after other types of programs?
No, they can accept Section 8 vouchers because sometimes if you're in certain cities or states and you set aside, let's say, half the units for folks making 80% of the area median income, you can potentially qualify for property tax abatements. So you get lower property taxes. Just think about how much money you save, right? You save $1 million in property taxes on a 5.5 cap rate. You just created $18 million of value. And you got to help out the workforce population. So that's another way to think about all the levers that you can pull to make it a deal for an affordable housing. Is how you can make it a deal when it might not be a deal for typical luxury Class A developers out there in the industry. Just because you had the knowledge to think about the piece of dirt a little differently, and you got to access subsidies, tax abatements, guaranteed rents. Because I don't think a lot of folks know the difference between even Section 8 vouchers, which is now called housing choice vouchers, and project-based vouchers. Let me take a second to explain that. So Section 8 vouchers are housing choice vouchers. That subsidy goes with the tenant. So let's say they're renting out a home for $1,000 right now, but they only make $1,000 a month. Well, they don't pay more than 30% of what they make for rent. So they only pay $300. The government pays $700. And if they move to another house, they get to enjoy the same subsidy. Then there's a project-based voucher. Project-based voucher stays with the unit. So when that tenant moves out in a project-based unit, when I got my college degree and I moved out and I started making more money, someone else got to move in and enjoy that subsidy. But why is that advantageous? Because when you have a project-based voucher tied to the unit, now you can underwrite that unit to full market rate, even though it's an affordable unit. So that's why you can, again, turn a deal that might be 50% affordable into 100% market rate development if you have enough project-based vouchers to subsidize that rent. Again, another form of subsidy, right? So now you get guaranteed rents for half the units. I bet you can sleep like a baby at night, right? Knowing that. And then you can also get property tax savings, which decreases your expenses, but also increases your value at the same time of your net operating income. So these are all the levers that you can pull to make the deal on top of what we talked about earlier, where you might be joint venturing with a city where they're donating land, maybe that's already a 501c3 or already a nonprofit, and the church has a parking lot and they want to build some apartments on the parking lot. Same concept. lower risk. And that's the message I really want to get across to your audience today, Gary. And I think if anybody listened today, they just learned how to create $12 million from 6 million pieces of land. They learned how to build 200 units with no money out of their pocket. So I think your audience got a pretty good value today. Even though I was a little bit late, so I apologize for that again, but I'm trying to make it up with that with a lot of value for you guys.
All right. So what money are you using to fund the entitlements?
So you can either have the city fund it, subsidies or grants. Sometimes cities will have this thing called the Affordable Housing Trust Fund. That's essentially a pool of capital that is meant for preservation of affordable housing or creating new affordable housing. You just got to know where to look. You don't always have to go look for the $100,000 check like you typically do in a syndication. How do these Affordable Housing Trust Fund come? They come from federal grants. They can come from city requirements where every commercial development have to pay in like $3, $30 a square foot of commercial development into this Affordable Housing Trust Fund. Because once you go commercial, you lose that piece of land forever. So they have to require developers to subsidize the creation of affordable housing. So, or you can obviously go raise it from a private capital source, and that's at-risk capital, right? But there's so many ways to go about it. You just have to determine what's the best path and what's your risk appetite for it.
So which strategy do you follow most often?
I would rely on the city or the county's capital.
All right. So you're specifically looking for opportunities that fit those needs. So how do you go about that? Do you choose the city or locality first? Is that the key? Targeting the city or a government entity or county? I think that works at the county level too, especially for unincorporated land, I assume, right? So is that what you start? Do you start there? Who's got the program, or do you start with just looking for the dirt?
Start with talking to someone, especially if you have no experience developing. Here's what I would do. I would find someone that's not your biggest developer. Think about folks that might be getting 20 units, 40 units approved, 20 townhomes, 40 townhomes approved. Because now they're not just getting permits or approvals for single family homes. They're getting approved for a pretty big size. So in general, they know who the decision makers are, who the people that are approving their projects are. That's where I would start. And then how to pitch the same thing I just talked about, on how to get access to land for the purpose of creating affordable housing. That's how I would start.
So you're looking for the partner, the builder, the developer partner first. So
Correct.
First step is build your developer list, make friends with developers.
Correct. By bringing the intellectual capital that we talked about today.
Right. Got it. Okay.
And then you find out whether or not the city leaders or county leaders actually care about affordable housing. You'll find out pretty fast, because development is a very steep hill to climb. And I would not recommend climbing in a city that makes it more steep than it is. So even though you might have the dirt, but they're going to make it so hard for you to build or get your project approved, don't go there. Go somewhere else. Play hard to make the other city, show another city what they can do, and then go back to that city later if you really are a city. But go to the other city so that you can help other cities create affordable housing. Because my goal is to create as much affordable housing there is. It's not about cozying up with just one city. It's about teaching other people how to approach these conversations. And most importantly, learn how to have these conversations with cities, with developers, and bring your own intellectual capital to the table.
So here's a wild question for you. Have you ever gone and looked at the AG's, the Attorney General for a state, looked at the screen the community, see which ones they're suing for not providing affordable housing?
You can look there. At the end of the day, I think it comes down to
not suing. What's that?
I think at the end of the day, it comes down to the team, because every city has their own connections for who they like working with. If your listeners today, just go look up on the permits. It's all public records, right? If you look up the architects, the civil engineers, structural engineers, and look up from the time they submitted a permit to when it was approved. Look for the architects, the engineers that got the project approved the fastest. From time to submit to the time of approval. That's who you want on your team. Not the cheapest guy, not the most expensive guy. Price doesn't matter. Results matter. So that's how you would build out your team. So you don't need to be an architect. You don't need to be an engineer. And I tell people all the time, once I learned that a developer is really just a coordinator, you really think about it. They learn how to acquire the land, structure the land, see the whole picture, find the financing. Then they don't sound like big, bad, scary monsters anymore. Anybody can do it, in my opinion.
So do you believe that the ones acting with good speed are the ones that are best connected, or just the most knowledgeable?
They either are most connected or their plans have been vetted with confidence from the city's planning department, building department, whatever that might be. There's some familiarity there, and that familiarity reduces risk for your projects.
All right. So given the current turmoil in that's being introduced into our economy, and the effort to reduce the size and scope of government activities, how do you see this impacting the available funds for low-income housing?
Well, I don't think the HUD loans was what we talked about earlier. They go to 9% LTC. I don't think they're going away because HUD insures a ton of loans. And HUD loans are used to build not just affordable housing, but market rate housing, hospitals, schools. I don't think that's going away. Because if it does, that's a big whole nother question in the whole world. Low income housing tax credits. That's been a great bipartisan issue that has been agreed by a lot of people. So I don't think low income housing tax credits are going away. But I do think that the cost of construction is going to continue going up. So the creativity that you must have to structure your capital stack is going to matter. And learning how to get subsidies in non-traditional ways are going to be the way where you can continue to win and how you can structure deals that will pencil. So I get there's a lot of political stuff, a lot of uncertainty, but that just asks us to be more innovative and more creative.
So where do you go to look for alternate funds, sources of funding? How do you target that? How do you find those?
Okay, there are grants like the home funds, choice community awards. There's been federal allocations of all these grants that have been given to your jurisdictions, right? You can look those up. They're very publicly available. But honestly, every city has parking lots. So I don't think it's that hard to find as long as you know the right people and learn how to pitch this idea. So that's what I try to tell you. Go find a developer that has the track record. They might know someone that knows who's in charge of the city's land or the city's parking lots, and pitch them to build some affordable housing. That's it.
So when you're pitching, what kind of preparation do you do?
I just tell them the same information I just told you now.
That's it?
That's it.
It's that simple?
It's that simple, Gary. Because you have to understand, most politicians, city leaders, they're well-intentioned with great hearts, but they do not understand capital stacks. They do not understand how to build an apartment building. That's why a lot of times developers just say, give me the land. And so they would have to give them the land and hope and pray to build affordable housing. Well, in this case, you're keeping the city as an owner, so you are giving them an incentive to maybe have a right of first refusal to keep the property affordable forever. So if the developer wants to exit, the city has a right to buy them out first.
Awesome.
And I think this is why I try to keep it simple, Gary, because I think a lot of times developers make it sound more complicated to put themselves on a higher pedestal, when in reality, if you keep it simple, the way you can teach people. I'm not saying it's going to be easy. There won't be problems, but you can take those problems when they come at least now you know how to put together a deal.
So, thinking back a few years here, what's the most difficult lesson you had to learn about affordable housing?
At the way they've been solving affordable housing is not necessarily the only way you can solve for affordable housing. That's what I mean. Low-income housing tax credits has always been a way where a lot of people are trying to raise equity for their deals by selling tax credits for 85 cents, 90 cents on the dollar. That has costed, there are some great LIHTC developments, but then they're also under budgeted or underestimated the amount of expenses to maintain that property going forward. And I see that now just from meeting folks in the industry, talking to guests on the podcast. They underestimate how much work it is to manage the property. So even though that used to be the only way, which now, if you think about it, low-income housing tax credits is such a competitive process that it's not creating nearly enough affordable housing anyways. So the way they've gone about it for the past 40, 50 years, even though they were the top experts in affordable housing, it still wasn't enough. So that means that there's plenty of opportunities for everybody.
Interesting. Biggest lesson. What was the most difficult deal you ever did?
The one I'm working on right now.
No, really? Did it get harder as you go, or you just taking on higher challenges?
Punches from everywhere, Gary. That's all it is. That's all it is. And it comes down to just learning how to arrange a capital stack. And when things don't go your way, how do you pivot? And the thing I've learned is I like to surround myself with people that don't quit. And I'm very fortunate that I've been able to be around President of the Foundation, Alvin Hope Johnson. I've been working with him, and it's incredible how many times we had to pivot to find the financing to build the apartments that we're looking to build in Texas right now.
Awesome. This is amazing stuff, Ken. It's been too long since we spoke.
Yeah, really, man, I love talking to you.
I love listening to you. You're amazing. You've always been incredibly impressive. What did you like last time I left you? The last time we had a serious talk, you were doing a lot of affordable housing for a specific Chula Vista.
Yes, that's right.
Does that seem like ancient history now, or are you still doing some of that?
If the right deal comes along, I'll do it. But I've learned to expand my thinking and understand that I can make a lot more impact. And I get to make a lot more impact just by sharing information like now. Because I hope someone listening right now, maybe that's you, Gary, maybe that's Sam, maybe that's someone listening to a replay, they're going to put together a deal for like 200 units, 400 units. Why not? And that's incredibly fulfilling to me, man. So, dude, I love catching up with you. Thank you for giving me the stage today, Gary. I mean, I have learned so much from you. I still remember last time I was talking to you on a conversation, we're putting in an offer on a place, and I can't appreciate the amount of technical wisdom that you shared with me. I think you know more about creative finance than anybody else in the state of California. So I appreciate you so much, Gary.
Well, that is a really high compliment coming from you, my friend. I'm shocked to hear that. Actually, I'm good with the technical stuff. I think that's really what it comes down to. I've always, I promised myself when I hit 60 that I'd stop being a super geek. And it was kind of a joke. I played on myself because it's not something I can get rid of. It's in my bloodstream. I can't help myself. So I've kind of succumbed back to understanding that's how I operate. So I'm doing some interesting stuff with some data stacks that I'm building right now. We'll see if it produces any results. But anyway, it's been a pleasure. Is there anything that any message you'd like to get out there before we wrap up?
No, if people want to message me, I look at all my DMs. So my Instagram with Kenthe, Kenthe, And the YouTube channel is youtube.com/@Kent_HE. Subscribe to the podcast. I appreciate it. And if folks want to listen to the podcast on Apple or Spotify, man, I would so appreciate if you leave a 5-star review on Apple or Spotify. We had some hate that left some 1-star reviews on a podcast because it's just affordable housing. But I would love to counter some of that negativity with the positivity that you're putting together, Gary, and that you're inspiring every day. So I appreciate that so much, Gary.
Is it also available on YouTube? So you have a YouTube channel? It's
Yes. youtube.com/@Kent_HE. That's the YouTube channel.
Okay, good. Want to get that in. When I edit this, I'll put it up on the screen so people can grab it.
Yeah, thank you, man. I appreciate that so much.
Hey, do you mind if I ask in here?
Oh,
Go for
Sam,
it.
jump in. You got a question, please? I forgot you were there.
Yeah, before he has to run.
Can you put your camera on?
Yeah, give me a sec. Like I said, I'm at work here.
We won't hold that against you, buddy.
See if I can figure this thing out. Here we go.
No problem. Fire your question
I'm
away.
sorry,
Sam.
I can't start the video. It says I can't start the video for some reason. I'm not sure why.
Okay, well, we'll just have to suffer. Listen, let's see if I can at least pin that picture of your two cute daughters.
Yeah,
I can't do that with the spotlights, but go ahead.
So Kent, so affordable housing is something I've always been interested in,
Right.
and so I guess my question. So I'm a newbie, obviously. You've been doing it for some time now, and so how does your YouTube or your Spotify kind of help you, someone like me, get started in this thing, or is there a way to, I guess, simplify it a little bit so where I'm not wasting time or money, and I can kind of speed up the process into getting into affordable housing?
Well, it depends what you want to do, and it depends on what your skill set is, Sam. It depends on whether or not you want to be a capital raiser, whether or not you want to be an underwriter, whether or not you want to be a construction guy. So we probably need to have a deeper conversation on what gives you energy, because that's really an important question to ask. What gives you energy in what you do every day? Like, do you like analyzing deals? Do you like go out and look for land, building relationships? What is that?
I'll tell you what. So it's kind of a small backstory on me. I'm in LP apartment syndications right now, but what my dream is to get into development. So I love the development aspect. I like building. I'm a man. I don't know what that is, but I just like building stuff and having people enjoy the fruits of my labor, if it makes any sense. So that's where land and affordable housing, kind of piqued my interest, because I would love to just build something. Obviously, we're here for money as well, but I'd like to build and have people enjoy the fruits of that labor. And personally, I just ride around my city and I see all these abandoned buildings, and I'm always thinking, how can I turn that building into affordable housing or some type of housing for folks? I have these ideas all the time. There's, when you get a Walmart that moves and now you got a vacant building there, and I'm always thinking, hey, how can I turn that building from an eyesore to something of use to somebody, instead of just sitting there? Because to me, I think it personally makes the city look ugly. So I'm always thinking about that stuff every time I ride around the city.
Well, you're asking the right questions there, Sam. So here's what I would do or recommend. You said you're an LP in a few syndications already. I'm sure some of your sponsors, they might know some developers there. And if not, again, you can go to your city's public records. Anytime there's a public hearing for building project approvals, the developers are usually there. And you can find out, again, find the developers that you can meet in person. They're the people, and they should not be so big, like billion-dollar corporations, because the person there is likely not the developer. You want to talk to the people that are able to get those projects that we talked about, 20, 30 units approved, so they know who the decision makers are. Tell them how you would deal, or bringing together your intellectual capital that we talked about, where the city is going to provide a parking lot that they own, an abandoned warehouse that they might have repoed after their tax payments went delinquent, anything like that. And then just see where the conversation goes. And then remember, as a developer, all you're doing is putting together the team. You don't need to know construction. You need to learn how to find a capital. But in this case, you know how to find a capital. If you get the land for free, you never had to borrow money. But the city can subsidize the entitlement process. You didn't have to raise any soft capital or at-risk capital to get the project approved. And then you can go get a HUD loan for 90% of the loan cost. And now you have 100% of your capital stack to build the apartment buildings that you want to build.
Gotcha. Does your YouTube or Spotify dive deeper into what you just talked about?
Yeah, so why don't you DM me on Instagram, and I'll send you a few focus podcasts, because now you told me what you want to do. It's not Section 8 single family. Great. So I'll tell you which ones to watch, and we can go from there.
Awesome. You're out of Dallas, aren't you? Or are you not?
My team is in Dallas, but I live in San Diego right now.
Oh, okay. Gotcha. Yeah, I'm over in Houston.
Hey, man, thanks for the question, man. I appreciate you getting involved. It made me really feel like this time was worth it with Gary and you. So I appreciate the engagement. I appreciate the question. It's shown me that I was able to help at least you and Gary today at the very, very minimum. And that was also worth it, especially if you go build 200 units, man. I don't see why not.
Yeah, awesome, man. Thank you for being here. I appreciate it.
Sounds good. Thanks for being patient with me, man. Well, I had to go through 3 different pivots to get onto this call.
Now, was that a snack you got through or a whole meal?
Oh, it was like I was so hungry because dinner time. I was like, oh, I'm gonna miss dinner. I'm gonna
If you
grab
could,
yogurt and I'm gonna
you
out
know,
here.
see you go off. All right, it's cool. Sam, any other questions?
No, not at this time. I'll definitely reach out to Kent and see what I can do, at least on my side of town. Maybe we can partner up, and you can help kind of guide me along, and we can partner up on some deals.
Are you going to be in Squad Up?
I'm not gonna be a squad up.
Sam, how about you? You going to take the trip from Houston to Dallas?
I wish I could. I couldn't get out of work. Someone else took vacation that week, so I was shit out of luck.
All right. Well, don't
You
get
guys like networking events? I'm going to the event called Jets and Capital in May during I think the first weekend of May in Miami. So that's a really good one to go to. I really like that room. A lot of people where they try to make it like 85% are investors, only 15% people are capital raisers. Great room to be, and highly recommend. I've been to 2 of those events, and
What's it called again?
done.
What's it called again?
Jets and Capital, JETS and Capital, CAPITI. Check it out.
And Capital.
Yeah, check it out.
It sounds interesting. And my brother's in Miami Beach, so that would give me a chance.
There you go, man.
Visit
There you
him.
go.
Yeah, and my niece. So that would be cool. Yeah, I got free lodging at
Yeah, there you go.
Beach. It's changed so much, Miami Beach. It's just since the first time I set foot there. In the 80s.
Yeah, I'm not a Miami Beach guy. Really, it's a little different.
Hey, Gary, if you don't mind tag along, I'll sleep on the couch.
Hey, my brother owns restaurants and hotels and all kinds of real estate. He was the smartest of the family, so I could stay in one of his hotels.
Nice.
Hey, all right, guys. Thank you so much for being here. I'm looking forward to posting this one. I'll tag you when I do, Kat. Okay.
Sounds good. Thanks a lot, Gary. Thanks a lot, Sam. I appreciate it. I'll talk to you guys soon.
Yeah, appreciate it.
Guys.
Bye.
Bye.